We are officially recording now.
Yes.
Okay, very good. Well, like I said, this is the PowerPoint that was prepared for the May training, and then we didn't get through it, and so we're going to do that tonight. And there have been a few changes and modifications, but I'll let you know what those are. I was initially asked to talk about newborn hearing screening and the EI system. So we're going to go through those, first talking about what the law does say, who the people are that are involved, and what that process is for newborn hearing screening, and then the process of early intervention and what the system looks like, who's involved, and how that works. So that's what we're going to talk about. Jump in at any time with any questions that you have, and we'll try to move through this and make sure that you have a good understanding of what both of these two things are and how they pertain to or relate to your roles as parent guides. So click. This will be fun. First, we want to talk about newborn hearing screening. And we're shifting our terminology. We were one of the few states that called it universal newborn hearing screening. The rest of the world has been under early detection of hearing and intervention for a long time. We were the ones that, and that's the federal terminology, but leave it to Illinois to like to be different. And so we've called it UNHS for a long time. But we are shifting gears, and in another 2, 3, 4 years, maybe we'll be all on the same page to be talking about it as EDHI. So go ahead and click. The law itself was passed in Illinois. Yeah, you got more clicks. The law, there's the law number itself, but it was passed 4 years actually prior to the implementation of the law. The law itself was implemented and began January 1st of '03. But 4 years prior to that is when the law was actually passed in Illinois. And then a very, very, very large committee of folks got together to work on writing the rules and regs and to identify who's going to do what, when, where, how, why, and what the players actually are going to be. The law itself is very brief. It's the rules and regs that kind of spell it all out for us. Since our start with newborn hearing screening, we're doing an awesome job. Percentage-wise, we have 3 players that oversee this and handle the 3 roles of monitoring the rules, keeping track of everything, and making sure that all of the testing is done. So let's click and talk about who those players are. We have DHS, and there is the contact number that was functioning. And then we have the Department of Public Health and the Division of Specialized Care for Children. And all 3 of those numbers are also numbers that were included on the brochure. Gail told me last Friday, was it last Thursday, that one of those phone numbers is no longer functioning. And I believe it's the one at Public Health. We had a family that called us last week, and there were issues about how they were trying to get information, and they tried to call one of the numbers, and it was no longer a functioning line. So we're glad that they're looking at redoing those brochures, because we've got to make sure we've got appropriate phone numbers for functioning phone numbers for families to get a hold of. Let's go ahead and click. Under DHS, they have the Bureau of Early Intervention. They also are responsible for implementing the rules as they have been spelled out and convening the advisory committee that meets at a minimum of once a year. It started out meeting 3-4 times a year and then went down to once a year. It kind of became non-functional almost for a while there. And now is back to more of a working committee, which I'm glad to see, and are kind of rolling up their sleeves and becoming more active in assisting with the issues related to screening. But DHS is kind of the one that oversees that. The next one is the Department of Public Health, and they are responsible for tracking everything. They have to keep track of all of the births. They have to keep track of those that were screened, those that failed, where they went, who they saw, did they get a diagnosis, did they get referred to early intervention, did they get support services, did they get transitioned to school after age 3. So public health is keeping track of all of that information on these kiddos and turning that information back into the feds. So it's really important that anytime and every time we talk to anybody, we make sure that we say, and you are getting that information back to public health. You are sending that back. That's a real important piece because those are the numbers that we're using to try to figure out if what we're doing is working or not. So they're a real important player. They are also the ones that any family, anywhere, anytime, if they need to find out whether their child passed or failed, they can always go to the Department of Public Health, and they will be able to give that information to them since they are the keeper of the records. So click. Division of Specialized Care for Children, DSCC, is the third piece of the triplets, and their job is to make sure that the testing gets done through education of the audiologists. They are available because they're Title V, to be able to assist with financing. They can hook any family up to audiologists, be it EDHI or DSCC or All Kids, or help them find an audiologist under a family's insurance. They will help with that case management as well as then the ongoing needs of the family and child related to that hearing loss. They help financially based on financial need, and there is a piece that is necessary to complete to get financial assistance, but they will do the case management piece no matter what. So they're great folks. Okay, click. This is the website that was developed and is maintained, I believe, by DSCC, and Ginger could jump in there and tell me for sure that if she's the one that monitors this. But there's a lot of really, really good information on here. Some of this is from other states. Some of this is Illinois specific. Lots of good information, and it's a good resource to refer parents to, if particularly newly diagnosed parents. And I'm just noticing here that Ginger did send a note to me saying that those phone numbers were the general 800 numbers, not specific to get to a direct point. So that number would get them generally to DSCC or to IDPH, and then they would have to make that request to get to who could tell them about newborn hearing screening.
And Nancy, the website that you're seeing is going to go under a revamp next spring. So there'll be a parent work group that we're looking to convene in November to redesign, to add more information. So any and all comments and suggestions are welcome.
Very good. Well, it's a great resource to have, and we've referred lots of families to it. And it's nice because it is state-specific in a lot of parts of it. So that's a nice thing to have as well. Okay, click. Obviously connected with newborn hearing screening, the federal guide recommendations are screening by 1 month, diagnosis by 3, and intervention by 6. Illinois' timeline is not quite the same as that. Illinois states that we're going to talk about that. Click to the next screen. That a child is screened once. If they do not pass, they must be screened a second time prior to discharge. At that time, information is given to the family that their child has not passed and that they need to do follow-up diagnostics. At that time also, the hospital refers the information on to the Department of Public Health there is a 5-day window for hospitals to get that information to public health. Then public health, within a 10-day window, generates a letter and sends it to both the family and the primary care physician, stating that the child did not pass and that follow-up diagnostics are needed. Then we kind of hit this snag, because then we have this gap in time. We wait until we hear back from an audiologist that says, yes, this child has a confirmed hearing loss, or no, this child does not have a confirmed hearing loss. And it is the family's responsibility to figure out how to get to that audiologist. And that's where we're hoping that families are going ahead and getting referred somehow, either to early intervention or to DSCC, because they both refer to each other, and will help those families get through it. Because right now, all they're getting is the letter from IDPH with the brochure and the phone number that, like the family we had last week, couldn't get to the information they needed to get to. So we're hoping that at some point in time, and through the collaboratives that Ginger's working with, and through whoever else families may be referred to, that we can try to close down that gap and that confusion about where do I go, how do I go, why do I go, and get them to an audiologist. Then the next hurdle is making sure that the audiologists get the information back to public health, at which point public health, once they have a confirmed loss, makes the referral to early intervention and to DSCC. Ideally, we'd like to see those referrals ahead of time, because DSCC can help with the diagnostics, and EI can help the family get any other types of services they may need besides just the hearing diagnostic evaluation. But at the moment, this is the way the rules and regs read. That's the sequence of events that are to occur. There's nothing to prevent hospitals, and in more and more places. As a matter of fact, I talked to a program manager yesterday who is meeting with one of the hospitals in their area and going to see if they can't get the hospitals to start giving the referrals, because in the last month they've gotten 2 referrals, one on a 12-month-old, one on an 18-month-old, both of whom failed newborn hearing screening, but it took them 12 months to get in, and the other one 18 months to get in to be tested. And so they're going to talk to the hospitals and say, refer to us at failed screen at discharge, and we'll help these families get into testing. So some of the hospitals are doing that now at failed screen. There are also several hospitals telling families to come back for a 3rd screen. I've heard of some that have even come back for a 4th screen. Now, the rules and regs don't say that. They say diagnostics after 2nd screen. At the same time, financially, it is wise to do a 3rd screen, because we can cut down about half. Number-wise, let me just throw some of those out for you. We've got roughly 180,000 live births in the state. Of that 180,000, roughly 5,000 would be children that would fail or not pass that 2nd screening. Of those, once diagnostics were complete, we would expect to find an average number of around 500 children that actually have a confirmed hearing loss at birth. There's another 120 children that will acquire a hearing loss in the first year of life. So altogether, we're talking about maybe 620 children in a year's time being diagnosed, which would put into the early intervention system close to 1,800 children. If you were to check with EI right now, they would say we have 250 kids in the system, nowhere near the numbers that we should have. At the same time, we know that we have more kids in the system. They're just not coded the way they need to be coded, but we're getting better at all of that. So let's talk about the system, if there aren't any other questions about the newborn hearing screening process. As far as the tests go, the hospitals can use either OAE screens or ABR screens. Either of those are acceptable based on the law. Any questions about that? If not, then let's talk about early intervention. Early intervention in the state of Illinois started when the passage of 99-457 back in the 80s, and Illinois signed on as one of the beginning states who were going to participate in early intervention and offer support to families of children under the age of 3 who were showing delay. And there was a 5-year phase-in period to beginning early intervention. Over the course of that time, it was the state's responsibility to take what the federal guidelines said and figure out how to implement them in the state. In Illinois, we have gone through major fluxes and major systemic changes, even in how we have set the system up. But one thing has stayed pretty consistent. Let's click. And what early intervention is has always been the same thing, and it is to support families of children with developmental delays. What drives the system is parent choice. We are one of the strongest parent choice states in the country. We're going to talk about how you would fit into that as a insider of the system or as an outsider of the system, and how we would get you to play with that. But let's talk about a little bit about the system, because it's important to understand what the philosophy is behind early intervention, and that will help clarify some things for some of the questions that do come up frequently for families of children with hearing loss. Click. I'm going to go through some of the vision statements here that early intervention stresses. You will see over and over and over again that the focus is on the family, that the focus is on family support, providing support to families. The families, even the second bullet point, you'll see it says families receive the appropriate guidance and support to optimize the skill enhancement for their children. The focus being on educating and supporting the family, who will then implement those intervention strategies with the child. Click.
Hold on. There you go.
There you go. Again, families are active participants in both the planning and the implementation. Early intervention is not a system of medical therapy. Go take your child to the hospital, send them into a closed room to meet with a therapist for 30 minutes, and then send them back out into the hall and walk away. The intention is that families are the ones who are doing the intervention, and that providers are providing support in the family's environment to enhance the development of the child. So it's very important to understand that that is the place that early intervention is coming from. And the reason I say that is because there are questions about certain services that are being offered throughout the state and whether early intervention will authorize all of those services. And as long as they meet these criteria, they will. And if they don't, they won't. And it's not because it's not a good program or it's not something because of a particular methodology or an approach, but it's because it's not family-centered. That is the biggest reason why services aren't always being authorized the way folks would like them to be, because this is the key piece of what early intervention is all about. Click. Again, it's teaching the families how to work with the children, and they want the children to and the therapies to be embedded in the family's activities. And whatever is typical for that family is where those activities should take place, and not pulled out into something that is not typical for that family's involvement. Click. And we know from the research that intervention provided in an isolated session with a therapist is not what is going to modify the behavior and the skill development of the child, but it's getting the parents and primary caregivers involved that will solicit the best improvement in development with children. So that's the goal of early intervention, is to support those caregivers so that they can in turn support the child in the best ways that they can. Click.
Sorry, I'm trying to type.
Look
at you talk fast.
I talk too fast, don't I? Blah, 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 blah. Teamwork. Families have to be involved in the writing, development, and implementation of the IFSP. They also are involved in the implementation of the activities identified in the IFSP. There are service coordinators assigned to each family. They assist in the, what's the word I want to use? In making sure that all the I's are dotted, T's are crossed, keeping the paperwork together, gathering the information, disseminating materials to the team, and making sure that all players of the team are equally represented and valued in their participation in both the team meetings and the intervention. And one of the things also that they stress is that families need to be, or that providers need to be aware of family culture and social and personal needs. Each family is unique, and the definition even of family is very unique to each family. And to be respectful of that is another key piece of the priorities of early intervention. Click. I already had mentioned that the IFSP, Individualized Family Service Plan, is the document where all of the information related to the child, the outcomes, the strategies, the providers are written down, documented, and then evaluations as they occur at 6 months and year each annual show the progress that are being made on achieving those outcomes. It is from what is decided by the team and put onto the IFSP that the service coordinator then generates the authorizations, which is the documentation that allows for payment of services. You all as guides currently would not be receiving authorizations unless you became credentialed as a parent liaison, and then you would want to be authorized and receive those authorizations. You should be included on the IFSP if you are a service that the family is receiving for a variety of reasons, but that has nothing to do with payment. But it allows you to participate on the team. It allows team members to contact you and talk to you, and for you to become an active part of the team. The team does not have to be all credentialed providers. It's any services that the family is receiving need to be documented on the IFSP. Click. Are there any questions about what the whole, you get the idea that families, I'm screaming families at you, and you obviously all are families, and I would hope that you all were receiving the support you needed as you were going through these early years with your kids. But this system really is family focused. That is the intent, and we do know that there are some providers that are a little less family focused than others, but the intent of early intervention really is to be very family focused. The state itself is divided into 25 regions. Each of those regions has at least one Child and Family Connections office. They may have 2 or 3 if they are a large geographic area to help. They would have satellite offices. Each CFC has one program manager who is responsible for the running of the Child and Family Connection office. They have a fiscal agent that is determined through state RFP, which means that they put a bid out and whatever entity writes to provide service and needed in that geographic area for the lowest price is the entity that is given the money to provide those services. So you may have an Easter Seals that is the Child and Family Connections office. You may have the Child and Family Connections office located at the ROE, the Regional Office of Education. You may have it at the local health department. It's whatever entity got the funding, that's where the CFC would be housed. So it's different in each of the 25 areas, and it changes. They actually were supposed to have re-upped this last round at July 1st, and they were all given an extension, and I think part of that's because we're going to see some revamping of what the system's going to look like. And so before they put the new RFP out, I think we're going to see some things coming down the pike that are going to shift gears a little bit and may make folks change their the way that they will be offering the services. But there are 25 areas. There are at least 25 offices. There are only 25 program managers. There are about 350 service coordinators. Okay, click. Early intervention, according to federal law, has 16 service areas. Illinois has 16 service areas that are not quite the same as the federal law. But these are the 16 as identified in Illinois. This is all the services are covered. Illinois just has called them some different things than what some of the other folks have. Developmental therapy is not in most states. It's not in the federal law. Special instruction is what it's called in most places. Oral rehabilitation is another one that is not listed in the federal law, but that Illinois chose to use that terminology. And oral rehab is where the services for a child with hearing loss are listed. The one that's highlighted there is family training and support. That is where our deaf mentors are. That is where interpreters are. That is where parent liaisons would be listed under that service category. That's also one of the categories that there's no family fee for. Some of the services in the system are services that a family can be billed for based on a sliding fee scale in the state of Illinois. There are certain services that the federal government has said you cannot bill for, and so those services must be provided free of charge. Those services are evaluation and assessment, service coordination, family training and support. Sure, there's another one, and I'm forgetting what it is. But so your piece is something that any family could receive, and it would not affect them financially one way or the other. Let's just leave it at that. So there would be no reason for a family not to want to have some support or assistance from you all. Click. Designated service coordinators. Now see, now that I'm doing this now instead of when we were going to do it in May. Back in May we hadn't done the trainings yet. We now have done the trainings. We ended up doing 5 throughout the state. Each of the CFCs identified the service coordinators that they wanted to have involved in this. I can tell you that most of the service coordinators had no idea why they were coming to the training. When they got there, they had no idea the responsibility that they were being given. And I can tell you that from one area to the next, it looks very different, and it is being left to the program manager to decide how this is implemented. Not quite what we had in mind, and that we hope that kind of through time that we'll see some things shifting a little bit. But I can tell you that some CFCs wanted to send all of their service coordinators because service coordinators were assigned cases by geographic area because they covered such a large space, and it would not be feasible for the service coordinator on the far east side of the state to travel to the far west side of the state. And so some of the CFCs sent several folks. Some of the CFCs sent one person. We were really hoping for a minimum of two so that if one left or was ill for an extended period of time, there would still be someone available. Ideally, we would like all of the children that have hearing and vision concerns to be funneled to this designated service coordinator. Some CFCs are using the designated service coordinators as a go-to person. That caseload will still be done by numbers or by geographic area, but if you have a question, then you go ask the designated service coordinator. Our concern with that is that the service coordinators didn't know what they don't know, and that's why we want the designated service coordinators. There are several places where the DSCs are doing exactly what we wanted, and all the kids are going to them. Now, I didn't hear of any of the program managers saying they wanted to move kids. Kids that already had a service coordinator were staying with them. But any new children that were coming in, many of them are indeed funneling them to the designated service coordinator. So we're very, very happy that that's the case. They went through the online training. I don't know if any of you went online and did that, but anyone can go through it. It's on the EI training website. It's about 20 minutes long. You can then see what the general population, all service coordinators, what information are being given to them. Then the designated service coordinator training was a face-to-face. The service guidelines are available online on our website if you would like to read through them. It is the procedural step-by-step of what a service coordinator is supposed to do with a family of a child with a hearing loss, from intake to eligibility determination to writing the IFSP. It walks them through that process. In the service guidelines, there are also a large packet of definitions. There is a screening tool. There's also the hearing aid and assistive technology document. So there are several pieces of information included in the service guidelines document that we hope helps those designated service coordinators in providing service to the families. Click, click, click. DTHs, Developmental Therapists Hearing, work under the oral rehabilitation category. We have, I just counted them up, 61 in the state that are full credential. We have another 11 that are temporary, that are working on meeting the requirements to become a full DTH. DTHs are individuals who have degrees in deaf education and have 120 clock hours of training specific to working with infants and toddlers. They also have 120 clock hours of direct service with infants and toddlers, children under 3 years of age. And it is up to the DTHs to identify the areas that they are willing to serve geographically. That's one of the things about early intervention, is that the providers, for the most part, are all independent and identify the days they want to work, the hours they want to work, the area they want to cover. It's a very flexible system for the providers. That's good for the providers, not always so good for the families. But again, the goal is to meet the family's needs, and um, that's one of the reasons that ISD is currently covering about two-thirds of the state. They have 3 DTHs working out of 3 different offices trying to get service to the families that are in the areas where there aren't DTHs available. We still have some black holes in the state. But for the most part, we pretty well have got the state covered. Someone can get there at least some of the time. It's not as often as I would like to see, but they are out there. And through the collaborative efforts of Illinois State University and Oakton and who am I forgetting? Hiowai. Yes. Pat Shearer and ICODA. There we go. Which is the that's terrible. I'm drawing a blank. But they provide service. They're used to be Center on Deafness. It's a branch off of Center on Deafness. The Deafness and the Arts. That's the A. Goodness. Anyway, it was a collaborative effort between the 3 of them to write a grant and seek to fill some of the gaps in the state. They are currently with their 3rd cohort of individuals that are working on getting specific training and working with infants and toddlers, oral deaf ed, and this time we really do mean AURAL, and working on listening skill development and enhancing use of cochlear implants is really kind of the focus of the program that ISU is offering. There it is, International Center on Deafness and the Arts. Good heavens, I cannot believe I spaced that out so poorly. Thank you. Goodness. So DTHs are somebody that we really want to have on the team for all of our families, because they are the ones that have the background training and knowledge when it comes to giving the information that families need to have on amplification, communication options. They can give it to them in a factual, non-biased way, and we would like to hope that they all are doing that. DTHs are the ones responsible for going through the hearing packets that I shared with you back in May, and the DTHs are the ones that are to be going through those with the families and making sure that those resources are being looked at and that questions are being addressed. Click. Deaf mentors are another piece. Deaf mentors are, like I said, available under the family supports piece. And we currently have 4 in the state. Yes, that's right. We have 4 in the state. All the rest of them have been removed from the system because they didn't bill. So we are in the process right now of trying to re-recruit them as well as others. We do have dates for an upcoming training. Deaf mentors must complete the 3-day system overview training. They can do 2 days worth of online study and then 1 day of face-to-face study, or they can do all 3 days face-to-face. What we've done is teamed with the EI training team, and on December 8th, they are doing the face-to-face training in Springfield, and we're going to focus it for deaf mentors and anybody else that wants to come that's interested in doing that system overview. You must complete the 2 days, either face-to-face or the material online, prior to attending this 3rd day on December 8th. But we're tweaking some of the activities and things to make it more applicable. So if any of you have not gone through the EI system training and think you may want to do that, you may want to attend that 3rd day training of training in Springfield on December 8th. So what we're going to do is we're going to have that so that they will have the system overview complete. And then on the 9th and 10th in Jacksonville, we're going to be doing the mentor training itself for those who have turned in the application and letters of reference. So if you know of anyone that you think would make a good mentor that's good at working with hearing folks and good with infants and toddlers, that's who we're looking for. And we hope to have a real nice-sized class to get this back up and running again. I really think the reason most of them weren't being used is because the service coordinators didn't know they were there. And now that we have the designated service coordinators, I think we're going to be able to resurrect this again. Our goal is to have mentors that use all different types of communication, all different types of amplification. We are not using the model of mentors as ASL instructors. That is not, which is what several other states are doing. Illinois is unique in our concept of mentors as language models, communication models in the home environment, regardless of what that modality and language would be. So please help us find folks. The application and letter of reference can be found on our website, and so direct folks to that if you've got anybody in mind. Click. Parent liaisons are also under that family support piece, and that would be the place that you all would fall under, either as a part of the system or not a part of the system. In any case, we would want you identified on the IFSP as a service that families are receiving. Again, that's so that the other team members can talk to you, so that you can get copies of the document, so that you can be involved in the meetings. And so we would like you to be included whether you're in the system or not in the system. But I do know that there was discussion that eventually the plan was to get you all into the system at some point down the road here. Click. And so I wanted to point out, click again, what the requirements are for being a parent liaison. You must have a high school diploma. You must be the parent of a child with special needs. You have to complete a background check. You have 90 days from when you get your credential to complete the parent liaison training. You must complete the 3-day system overview, and you are to complete 240 hours of direct service within an 18-month window of when you get your credential. Then, as ongoing to maintain your credential, you have to meet the monthly professional development requirement and also the professional education requirement, which is 30 hours of training every 3 years. So those are the yes. Go ahead.
I was just going to ask Nancy, what are they paying parent liaisons now?
I think the billable rate.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think the billable rate comes out to, isn't it like around $40 an hour?
I was going to say it's. I was thinking it was like 54 because they got, isn't it?
Hold on, I'll check.
$13 or $14 an hour. And you know what? I've got the new handbook right here. One of the things also that I would recommend is that if for sure, before any of you would become involved in the system, there is a new handbook that came out that went into effect September 1st. You can access that on the Provider Connections website, and it has any of the tweaks or new adjustments or changes that are part of the new system in it, and it also has the rates. Let me see if I can find it. I'm flipping pages here. But it would be a very useful document. They did a webinar on some of the highlights of some of the changes, and if you weren't at all involved in the system, it might not help you a whole lot. You might be a little overwhelmed by some of it, but if you had attended the system training, then I think to watch the webinar would be really helpful. There we go, family training and support. Page 14.
Online, if it's per 15 minutes for one family, on site it's $10.71 for 15 minutes.
No, that's not right. Those are old numbers.
Oh, then they've got.
Hang on, wait a minute. Did you say 1071?
Yeah.
Yes, those are correct. 1071. So that's $42.84 an hour. And then it's got the group rates down here too. It comes out the same if you have 4 families. If you have 4 families in a group, then if you bill each of them as at the group rate, it comes out to the same amount. But I don't know how that would work for y'all. Them recouping. I think it would be a great way to recoup dollars back into the Guide by Your Side program, as you're able to get that money back out of the EI system.
Right.
Yeah, I mean that's.
So, Dan, are you guys saying that the parent liaison and a parent guide wouldn't be paid for both?
No,
paid by both.
What would happen is Annixter has does billing with EI already. So they could bill for parent liaisons. If any of our guides are parent liaisons, they could bill for your services with the family, and then, you would get paid. Now, I know when I did parent liaison services, I did not get paid that full amount because obviously the person that I worked for took their cut.
Right.
And parent liaisons cannot bill EI directly. They have to go through a center or somebody else that bills.
Okay.
But
service coordinators and parent liaisons are the 2 pieces that cannot work independently. They have to work for an entity. The service coordinators have to work for the CFC. Parent liaisons, it doesn't say they have to work for the CFC, but they have to work for a program providing early intervention services. So you could not bill yourself as a parent liaison. At the same time, a lot of what you all do is not billable to early intervention. And so if and when it comes down to the time for you to be able to bill early intervention and you have become credentialed, we're going to have to be real careful because what your job description is as a guide by your side and what the job description is as a parent liaison, we're going to have to be very careful that you don't bill early intervention for something that you can't bill them for. You can do it as being a guide, but you can't do it as a parent liaison. So it'll take some careful keeping track of how much time you spend doing what where to make sure that appropriate billing happens, because there are monitors and everyone is monitored annually to make sure that the services that you were authorized to provide are the services you did provide and that you have the documentation to prove that. And if you don't, then bad things happen. So, but we'll talk about all of that when when we get to a point where you are actually going to.
And then one of the reasons why we hadn't traveled down this road yet either is that all parent liaison services need to be face-to-face. And, you know, not every meeting that you have with the family is face-to-face. So billable time can only be face-to-face.
Right. There are quite a few very specific things that you can and can't do. That's what I was saying is that. So like phone calls and emails and all that's great, and that's things that you can do as a guide, but that's not things that will count as a parent liaison. Yeah. So they are. We'll have to keep those things separate. Come up with some way for you to make sure. And Carrie knows because she's worn both hats. So in developing some sort of a log sheet or something to keep track of, these are EI billable things, these are not, and then as you work with families, which things fall under which category.
Yeah. Nance, I just wanted to make sure I could understanding if you are credentialed as a parent liaison through EI, can you work in both capacities? Can the person themselves work as both and get paid as both?
You have to work. You cannot bill early intervention. You yourself cannot bill early intervention. Parent liaison, you could as a parent liaison. A parent liaison has to work for a.
Let's say I got credentialed through my CFC, and I was a credentialed parent liaison. Can I do both as a guide by your side parent guide and a parent liaison and collect money from both? I was just curious.
You're saying to be a parent liaison for other children, not for children with hearing loss?
Well, I guess that's through EI. It's a parent liaison that's cross-category, right, for everybody?
Well, right. It's a cross-category. Each CFC has a parent liaison that works for them. Some of them are half-time, some of them are full-time, but the parent liaison works for the CFC. They are employed by the CFC. Most of them actually get paid a salary. And then they log their time, and then whatever direct time that is billable time, then the CFC can recoup through the CBO. So it's kind of a different scenario than any of the other providers in the system. I have heard of a couple hospitals who had someone, because they provided early intervention services, they had an employee who was credentialed as a parent liaison. And then whenever services that individual provided met the criteria for parent liaison, then they could bill for those hours or for that time. That the hospital could bill for that time. And again, most of the time, my understanding is that those folks are on some sort of a salary, and then it's whatever pieces can be billed is a way to recoup some of that money. That the majority of what they do is not billable. To me, it's goofy because as a parent liaison, you would think one of the primary things would be pick up the phone and call me if you have any questions. You know, I'm at the other end of the phone, and that's not acceptable billable service. But for me, the role of a parent liaison, that would be a huge piece, I would think.
Yeah,
and yet that's not billable time.
I even tried to work with the Bureau to see if I could get through like a webcam. So there was face-to-face, it's just over the computer, and it's not acceptable either.
Yeah, I think at some point in time, they're going to have to get with technology. They're going to have to step it up a notch or two and realize that face-to-face is not always the most efficient way to provide service. and that sometimes if a parent has a question and can pick up the phone and say, hey, I'm doing this and I want to try that, is that going to be a good thing or a bad thing? And you can go, great thing, go for it, excellent, run, do it, because I'm not going to get there for another 4 days and do whatever it is that, idea you came up with. So, in the long run, being able to converse in a variety of modes, media, electronically, whatever, makes sense because that's just where the world's going. But at the moment, that's not the way EI is paying. So, like I said, when we get to that piece, we will need to make sure that it's clear when you document it so Annixter can recoup whatever money they can out of what it is that you do. When you click to the next screen.
Okay, and Nancy, we've got about 15 minutes.
Okay, well, what have we got about? Okay, as far as once you are a provider, then you are required to complete progress reports and identify what it is that you, what goals that were on the outcome statements, what you've done, and you have to turn it in the format that is required. There's a certain format that all report writing has to be done in, and as a provider, then you would be required to do that. You would also be required to attend the meetings. If you are included on an IFSP, you can attend the meetings. I have no idea what the policy is for Guide by Your Side as far as if they can pay you to attend IFSP meetings or not with families, but if you were credentialed, then you would be required to attend those meetings. Click. Provider Connections is probably the best website as far as finding information about what's going on in early intervention. That's where your credentialing and enrollment packet is. You would download them and complete them. They have a hotline phone number that they're really good about helping. We can also help you with any questions that you would have in attempting to fill out those packets. At the same time, Provider Connections is the best, I think, resource for finding out new memos, things happening in early intervention, because the memo goes from Springfield to them and they can post it on their website immediately. The Bureau, it takes them weeks to get anything posted because of who has to do it and what that process is. So if you want to know the latest and greatest what's going on, this is the website that I suggest that you look at. Click. This is the Early Intervention Training website. This is where you can find any trainings in the state related to early intervention, and you can register for them online. It'll tell you the location if there is a charge. There are video and online trainings available on this site as well that you can access. Many of them are free. You may be very interested in checking out some of those, or you may be talking to a family that the child has a certain diagnosis and you might want to find more information about it. And there may be a training or a video or a resource available off of their website. So check them out and see what they have to offer. CBO is the place where the money flows, and that's the folks that if and when the time comes, you'll need to learn about them, but you don't need to do that right now. In transitioning from Part C, which is birth to 3, to Part B, that's an important piece of what both EI does, and I would imagine that's a real important piece for where you all can step in, because families are going to have to let go of all of the sports they've had back here in early intervention and pick up new people going forward. They may maintain their audiologist, they may maintain their DSCC caseworker, but other than that, just about everybody that they had in EI they're going to lose, and they're going to pick up new folks, and they're very different. Click. The two pieces of the law are focused on two very different things. You all know that from walking through it yourself. And it's gotten more and more stringent with the federal government watching how that transition is happening and making sure that it is a smooth process and that families are given all of the options that are available to them as they get ready to transition. Click. This next screen is just a comparison of some of the different things. One of the biggies in EI is that natural environment. In Part B, it's least restrictive. We all know what the debates are about the least restrictive environment, but that's something families need to know coming in. In early intervention, we've been doing everything in the home, in the daily routines of places the family goes. Everything has been based on family and parent choice, and we're going to go to Part B, and things are going to be different. And so just for them to be aware that there are changes, and it's not the same, and for the guides to be available is a good support piece. Click. If you are looking for more resources, you can check our website, there it is, and get a hold of the service guidelines or watch the online training if you are interested. And other than that, click. We're done. So any other questions about EI? HVC itself, we are here to answer any questions. Send folks my direction whenever they have anything that doesn't sound right or they need help with, whether it's a provider or a family member or it's yourselves. This past 8 weeks have been nuts. This is the first week I've been in the office all week in 8 weeks. And so I'm playing catch up on emails and voice messages and all of that good stuff. But we hit it real hard this fall, and now things are going to slow down a little bit. So it'll be a little easier to get a hold of me. So send folks my way, and I will try to answer whatever questions they may have. This is the same PowerPoint, like I said, so you all have it, because we gave it to you back in May. So you should have all the numbers and all the stuff that was on it. Somewhere in that massive stack of stuff we sent you home with from Jacksonville. So other than that, I'm done talking.
Okay, I do have 3 slides with questions. If you want to do me a favor, I'll click on the next slide, answer the question. Don't answer to me. Type it up in an email, your answers, and email it to me. So this way no one's embarrassed if they've guessed the wrong thing or whatnot. So then I can put you down as completing the training. All right, so here's the first question. The national recommendations of EDHI are 136, hearing screening by 1 month of age, diagnostic testing by 3 months, and early intervention services by 6 months. 123, hearing screening by 1 month, visit to ENT by 2nd month, hearing aids by 3rd month. And C, 246, hearing screening by 2 weeks old, 4 planned appointments with an audiologist and amplification by 6 months old. So, feel free. Beth just chatted her answer to me privately. You can choose to do that too. In the send to box, you just click host, and then you type your answer in the box below and hit send. And then I will answer you. And then this way we can go on from there. Maria and Allie, do you guys want to answer?
Yes.
All right. So either, again, you can send it to me or email it. And are we ready to move on to the next question?
Yep.
Okay. So next question. Question 2, the IFSP is the Family Service Plan through EI that includes family-centered outcomes and authorizations for services. True or false? And if you don't hear back from me with your answer, then you're good to go. All right. Number 3, the Designated Service Coordinator, the DSC, yeah, did that come out right? Through EI is the person that is assigned to help you with forms, because there's plenty of those. B, person identified by each CSC office to work with all families with a child who has a hearing loss and vision loss, or C, the person who coaches the entire office of service coordinators. So A, B, or C, ladies. Okay, Beth, Andrea, we got good. And Allie, excellent. Okay, moving on. Number 4, DTH stands for Deaf Translator Helper. Don't touch, it's hot. Developmental hearing. Now, no laughing, ladies. Come on, I mixed this up last night, and, it's a little classic. All right, we're good then on that. Number 5, deaf mentors are available through your local elementary school, Part B, which is Part B. True or false? Okay. All right. Excellent. Excellent. So, again, thank you all for being on the call tonight. I appreciate Nancy taking the time tonight to go through this again with us. Rather than
Nancy.
first at the training. So thank you.
Absolutely. Well, like I said, and any questions that come up, just call. And
they're showing you the love in the chat box, if you can see that. All right. Well, thank you, ladies. If you do want to review this at any time, this, like I said, has been recorded. So you can, I don't know if there's a way for you to log in and access the recording without me actually giving it to you. So if you can't get it on your own, let me know, and I will forward it on to you. All right?
So, Carrie, doesn't it take a day or two?
Huh?
Doesn't it take a day or two?
You know what? Last one, I was able to access it the next morning. I don't think I tried that night, but definitely the next morning I was able to get it.
Cool.
Now, is it still recording right now?
Yeah, I will stop it. There we go. We're good.